Hi, Belle here. Thank you for watching and tuning in. Whew, it's a hot day today on this June day in the UK, in Wales, UK. We are experiencing some very beautiful, hot, sunny, glorious weather. So this is my last chapter, if you like, on routines and autism. It's been a nice long chapter. There's so much more that could be spoken about. So, you know, my little bit of input that I do on these videos is by no means, you know, the law. It's a perspective, it's experience that we, meaning me and my son, have figured out and learnt together, and what I've learnt from him, and also what I've learnt from other autistic people of all ages that have shared their lives, really, and aspects of their lives, and particularly around routines for this series. So this last series, this last chapter, I wanted to talk about, my notes there, just some tools, and there are many, and some parents, you know, you even find, or your children often will show you a method or something that they would like to use, which helps them figure out their day and what's coming next and where they're going. And I would suggest, you know, parent or a professional or a carer, family member for your autistic loved one, like keep an eye out for that and go with it. If they can create their own systems, I would, you know, celebrate that, and I would definitely go along with that. It doesn't always have to be stuff that you buy in a shop that you've seen online and is all kind of like professional. Often the best tools are things that you figure out yourself, and they're makeshift stuff. They, you know, they might be bits of paper put together, and you know, in time you can like laminate and you can do stuff. But the most important thing is to go with the flow, follow your child's lead if, you know, they are showing you a lead, and if they're not, then your role is to just give them different tools to try, and if they don't like it, chuck that one out, try another one. You know, it's all trial and error, especially when they're young. You know, try not to get caught up on one thing. It's okay. And remember that every child develops. Autistic children with sensory processing differences, challenges, and all the other genres, it's that everyone develops at their own pace. So don't think that your child's just going to get stuck in one place. It doesn't usually happen that way. So as an example of following your child's lead, when George was very, very young, and I didn't know anything about nothing to do with sensory stuff, and I was just figuring stuff out, beginning to figure stuff out with George, I'm talking from about the age of about 2.5, so really, really young. What he did all of his own back one day was, you know, we'd get him dressed to go out, like we'd have minimal shoes and clothes around, because being so young, you just don't have a big wardrobe, do you, when you're little? And what I noticed one day he was doing, we were going to go somewhere. I've always used pictures with him, photographs. I just felt that intuitively that he needed that. I'll talk about that in a minute. But he also needed something else. He needed something physical. And he used his clothes and his shoes. And so he just went and got his wellies, and he put them by his clothes as if to say, I need those out as well as the picture when I'm going to that place. That just helps me know that that's like my social story in physical form, if you like. And so same with his school uniform. He doesn't have to wear a uniform, but because George likes certain types of clothes for certain places, it just helps him sort it out in his mind where we're going. It seals the deal, makes him feel happy and secure and absolute and certain and everything's okay. and he has his photos on his board, and he also has certain clothes, then that works. So if I was to say, for example, in the early days, oh, he doesn't have to wear a uniform, and I'm not really into uniforms, and his uniform is just a polo shirt with the school logo on it. That's it really, and black shoes, and he can wear whatever colour trousers he likes, but we just stick to a thing really for Georgie's sake, that when he sees the polo shirt with his school logo on it, plus his pictures, he's like, that's absolutely sure I'm going to school. If on a non-school uniform day, which they have at school sometimes, and I've sort of invited George to engage in that, and I haven't put a school uniform out, it's not been good for him. It's confused him. It's like, well, that's on the board. Where's my polo shirt? Where's my logo? Where's that logo? He needed the dragon logo to say that he's going to Cadwyn to school, which is where he goes. So that's just an example of what George created for himself, and I followed his lead, and I just thought it was a really great, clever system. But as he's grown and aged, he's 15 now, remember, he can be more flexible, so he doesn't need to have the same colour shorts, say when we're going to the river. He doesn't have to have the same shoes, as long as they're not same as school. Then he's become more flexible as he's grown and developed, I believe, because throughout his life I've met him in his world, and I have followed his lead, and we've built up this incredible trust. And obviously 15 years in, I'm more experienced, and I've still got lots to learn, but I'm a lot more experienced, and he knows that we've got our thing going, so it does get easier. So I'm going to put loads of notes on this video and loads of links to different sites and websites for different tools. So you can use your physical tools. So you can use clothes, you can use shoes, you can use different hats for different places, if that is what your child needs. You can also use what's called PECS, which is the Picture Exchange Communication System, which is just basically a load of symbols. There's loads of information online, but I will put some links in the description later. And they're great, and they're really universal. George, when he was younger, didn't connect to those because his life experience was so limited. The symbols didn't yet mean anything to him. It was just squiggle, and there was nothing he could connect that to because he was so young. So what I started to do was go to places without him, like parks, swimming pools, forests, lakes, you name it. Wherever we went, I would take a photograph of the entrance to the place. So even if it was like a countryside entrance that, look, to you and me might, to a parent might think that just looks like any other place, but George would always know that that's that. He just knows. So I take proper photographs, and then I print them off, laminate them into like little wallet size, and then they would go on his weekly timetable calendar thing. So he could see that when we were going to a park, that was the park we were going to, and then a different park, because a park, sometimes with some autistic kids, one park isn't all parks. One park is one park. And then, you go to a different park and it's a different park. So just because we think, oh, there's swings, there's slides, there's roundabouts, it's all the same. Not always. So just know that. So that's what I started to do. And I used to have to take a photograph of the outside of a building. If we were going inside a building, like a soft play place, I didn't realise at first, but I learned by taking a photograph of the outside of the building first, so George could see that's the building, and then photographs of the inside. So I would do all this. It takes a bit of time, and if you're able to do it and go on your own, or now you can go online, you can print pictures off online of the outside of buildings and then the inside. It just gave him a really good idea of where we were going. And I just do a couple of pictures of the inside and just one of the outside, put them on his ball, so this is where we're going, and he would be happy, happy, happy. And that is a system that we still use today. So real photographs, same with people. So if we were meeting certain people there or certain support workers were coming, I'd always have to ask for a photograph of them first. Photographs of their faces so that I could put them on the board so George would know exactly who was coming, who was going to be there and what's what. It worked really, really well for George. Social stories are just that. So they're just, instead of just having one picture up, you could perhaps say for brushing teeth or like a sequence or getting dressed, or depending on your child's ages and processing abilities and where they're at developmentally for them, you know, one or too many pictures on George's board just is too much. It's just too much information. It's just he can't figure it all out, even to this day. So we keep it really simple. And that's not because I am being down on George intellectually at all. This is because I have learned and accepted and recognised that George can process 2, 3, maximum of 4 pictures at one time. He can have 5 days as long as it starts getting complicated, but he needs to know where he's sleeping every night, so I can do that for the whole week. So if he's here at home with me all week, then he has a picture of his bedroom, and then he has a picture of the outside of our house. So to him, that equals I am sleeping in my bed tonight in this house. That's an example. But if I was to put the whole week's activities up, of all the different places we were going to go in the week, no, he'd take them all down and he'd just say, what we're doing today? What we're doing tomorrow? And I always put the pictures up for tomorrow, tonight. So we'll come home, we'll go through some pictures, I'll give him some choices of places, especially during this lockdown, of where I know we can go, and then he chooses where he wants to go, and then we put that on the board. That's how it works for us. But social stories, I'll put links on here for you, because there's so many different types and ways and methods you can use, and speech and language therapists are really good at helping you with this kind of thing. Schools have really good systems. There's some really good information out there. And I know a lot of autistic adults who live independently and perfectly fine and dandy, but they still need to have social stories in their own homes to remind them sometimes of the process of going through the bedtime routine or the evening routine, or when they get up in the morning, and if they go, if they've got a job and they go to work, or a different type of routine if they're going to do something else in the day. Sometimes they need those routines because of executive function, sensory processing. Sometimes they're not feeling great because they've had a really full-on busy time, and they found that even living on their own independently, they need those social stories as a cue, as a reminder of, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. So there's loads of information about that online that autistic people have been kind enough to share, that us neurotypical parents can learn from and professionals can learn from. You can also obviously use physical communication, like pointing where it's applicable. Allow your child to use my advice, my opinion is to use, I don't give advice, but I do give opinions, is suggestions that, your child may use a whole broad tool bag of communication. So especially if they're non-verbal, as in speaking, they may not speak for many years. They may never use verbal communication. They may use it intermittently. They may only say 1 or 2 words. They may not. But they will communicate. They will communicate constantly. So it's up to us parents and professionals to just try and not stay focused on just one form of communication. That's, I think, where a lot of parents, we get so caught up in, I want my child to talk because it will make their lives easier and everybody else's. It's like it only makes it easier if that is what that autistic person can do, wants to do, it's not going to make it easier for them if it's a constant thing that's being pushed and pushed and pushed, and they just really cannot or would rather not, for a whole array of reasons, which next few weeks coming up when I talk about all the senses, some of that will come into play. So physical communication is really important for George, and that can help with routine building. Obviously sign language, which you can learn online yourself. It's quite simple. You can create your own sign language like we do at home. We use loads of different types of communication. We even use a bit of intuitiveness, mind melding. Like, he's shown me, I've suddenly had like an image of an egg years ago, and he wasn't eating hardly anything, and I was driving and I bought a sandwich from a shop, and it was an egg mayonnaise sandwich, and I just, George wasn't eating anything, he'd gag at most things, so I didn't even think to offer it to him. And I'm driving along, and then all of a sudden George made a sound like a he was young, he was about 5-ish, and I looked in the rearview mirror, and he was just looking at me like this. This is what he does sometimes when he does a bit of tuning into my mind. I'm telling you something, mummy, pick it up. And I just saw a visual of an egg, really clear, and something else happened. I can't really explain it. And I just knew he was saying, I want some of your sandwich. So I said, oh, do you want some of this egg mayonnaise sandwich? And he took it and he ate the whole thing. Never done that before. Would always gag at even the smell of an egg. So, and then from there on, I was like, ooh. So I practice this, and sometimes I can intuitively pick up what George is saying to me. And I believe that that is one of George's, I think he, or another way of putting it is, he has, obviously we have thoughts in our mind, he's saying stuff, and because he can hear himself saying it in his mind, he assumes that everybody else can do that too. So it's a big surprise to him, I think, when other people have no idea what he's on about. So sometimes when he's, you know, getting, it's like, it's because he's already asked or said. So that's another, all these tools are to help create routines. Obviously communication is creating routines. I think that's all for the routine stuff. The biggest tip, I think, though, is really just start small. So we're going to do this, then we're going to do that. Really start with that. I mean, you can literally even start with today, we're going to do this, or right now we're going to do this, and you put it on a board. And then build up nice and slow. Don't overwhelm too much, just in case it's too much and then you think, oh, that's not working. It might just be because it's too many pictures, too many symbols, too many days of the week. So just start off small. Be patient, do lots of observing, do lots of talking to other parents with autistic children that maybe are a little bit older. If you've got younger ones and this is all new to you and overwhelming, there's so many parents with so much experience that, you know, can help and support, me being one. And also the autistic community, so many sites, so many Facebook groups, so many groups out there now, neurodiverse, you know, language, autism-led groups, full of amazing human beings that have been autistic children and are now autistic adults, and they are our wise ones. They are, I think, they've taught me so much. So I strongly advise you do that, suggest you do that. So as a recap, what do routines offer? One thing, the big thing, is that routines and rituals are absolutely necessary in all of our lives, but especially autistic people's lives. They are essential. And if, you know, you hear stories of, don't let them get too caught up in a routine. No, you've got to keep changing things. Don't let them get used to one thing or another. I would say, from my experience and from seeing other children and speaking to hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands of autistic adults over the years, that is not good advice. Why shouldn't a young autistic person that's just starting out in their own existence with all the sensory challenges and confusing situations of being on this planet in this way, have to keep constantly changing what a routine. We all like routine. If you want to build trust and build a positive relationship and allow your child, or support and help your child or your client to, or your pupil at school or nursery, to be able to really anchor in and feel secure and safe in their day, routine is key. It really is. It really, 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 really is. I can't express that enough. It's not going to make them stay the same forever. It's not going to limit their, be flexible and bring in some new suggestions, but keep an open mind and go in with the thought that this is just a suggestion. If they're not ready for that yet, they'll let me know. But they will be ready as time goes on, I promise you. It just, it might not happen in the normal milestone development charts that you see with neurotypical children, but we haven't got neurotypical children, we've got autistic children, and they're different, so we parent differently, and that's okay. That's the whole point here. So routines can offer, I'm going to read the stuff that we've spoken about the last 4-5 weeks, and please do, if you haven't watched any of the past ones to do with routine, have a little skim through, have a little look, share them out, and there's loads of information there. Please comment, add your bit. If there's anything that I've missed, please do say. I'd love to, I'm still learning too. I do not know everything. So routines can help create skills. They're good for social interaction. They're a good coping mechanism. They create stability, flow of the day. They help process all the sensory stimuli around. They're a safety mechanism. They develop language and communication skills. They're good motivation. They give a sense of self and power and control and self-esteem and assertiveness. They can assist with executive functioning and structure, and they provide freedom for your child and your autistic loved one. They help to nurture. They create playfulness because they're more relaxed, so they can have more fun and confidence, and honor. You're honoring their needs, It's just fab. So next week's new series. Next week is all about the senses. So I talk about sensory processing every video, I mention it. So I'm going to do a whole series on the senses. So each week I'm going to talk about one sense because there's a lot to cover. So we're going to do the sound, the touch, the taste, the sight, the smell. We're going to do the vestibular system. I'm not very good at saying these big words. Which is basically your movement, your body movement through space, where you feel you start and end. A lot of autistic children can find that quite difficult. And the proprioception system, which is your body position and your muscle joints, so how you move your body. So dyslexia. What is it? I can't remember the name of that. But when you find moving very difficult, dyspraxia can be a proprioception system issue. So I'm going to include those two in the senses. And I'm really excited. I've talked about senses a lot in colleges and schools and workshops and whatnot, because the sensory stuff when you're autistic is everything. It's huge. So if parents, neurotypical parents, carers, professionals, loved ones can really learn about the sensory processing stuff, then the rest is not as challenging or as difficult. Because if you understand where your child is coming from because their smell is like a hound, or it's under stimulated and they just can't smell anything, and you're thinking, what's going on there, then it could be a sensory processing challenge. So it will help you with your child, with activities and just life living. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. Thank you so much for watching this series. I hope you've enjoyed it. There'll be more to come. Please do subscribe by clicking the link and the little alarm. You'll get alerts, and let's create this community and keep growing. And thank you for subscribing and supporting. It's amazing. I'm so happy to be doing this and sharing what I've learned and what I'm learning from people that are contributing and sharing and messaging me with all sorts of stuff. It's brilliant. Anything new that I learn, anything new that I find out about, I will always share on here. I'm just another source of information in this amazing soup of internet wisdom. So thank you very much, and I'll see you again next week. Bye for now.